Boy, I sure didn't think that the most important storyline of the week this week coming out of Ohio State, their big win over Penn State. I didn't think the biggest storyline of the week for the Buckeyes was going to be something other than Ohio State winning a second consecutive game against a top 10 opponent in as many chances. But that's exactly what the week has been like. It's almost a weird reminder that the season continues to move along, and there is a game this week, and it is a big game, certainly for the Bucks and for their fans. And so we're going to dive into it next with our preview and prediction. Ohio State, Wisconsin. It's coming up next on Buckeye Breakdown.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness, is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Buckeye Breakdown. I'm Brendan Gulick with Anthony Meglin. How's your week been, Anthony? Nothing going on?
Little less crazy than yours, huh?
I was just thinking in general that, we have nothing to talk about.
There's nothing going on in the Big Ten or in college football at all.
Goodness gracious. It's almost weird to be thinking about it in that context and remember that, at the beginning of the season, this Ohio State team was looking at its schedule and saying, like, okay, there's some games – that always grab your attention, right? Obviously, Notre Dame and Penn State, Michigan are the big three, but I was a proponent that this Wisconsin game was also going to be a really important game. And while I still feel that way, I'm not as concerned now that we're 2 months into the season as I was maybe at the beginning of the season with where Wisconsin could be. This is an interesting time to be playing a game of this magnitude because Wisconsin is good. They're not great. They're certainly not elite, but they're tough. And obviously Luke Fickell's, he knows Ohio State football through and through. He's going to have the Badgers ready to play. Prime time, under the lights, Camp Randall, all the distractions. Is this a trap game for the Buckeyes?
It kind of feels that way, right? Like end of October, you got through the second huge hurdle on your schedule. There's a lot of stuff going on outside of Ohio State football that, a lot of our fans are talking about and a lot of people around the country, frankly, are talking about. And the last thing you want to do is go up to Camp Randall and lay an egg. And because that could happen, right? It's a 7:30. It's a primetime kickoff. It's the biggest game on Wisconsin's schedule. And you look through the list, you look through the Ohio State schedule, they've had the target. The Buckeyes have had the target on their back every game this year, every game for the last 5 years, 10 years. So they're not, this isn't a new spot for them, but it's like you're just on extra alert because as much as, there's a trap game before you play a big game like that Maryland game could have been, the almost the hangover, if you will, could also be a trap game afterwards. So this got a weird feel to it, kind of leading into this weekend. And, I think the Bucks are going to be ready for it, though.
And the reality is this has been a pretty common matchup over the years in Indianapolis for a Big Ten championship game. Two proud programs that have a lot of winning tradition. And I don't think Wisconsin is quite on Ohio State's level this year, but I wouldn't put it past them to give Ohio State a decent game. I think Wisconsin got a little help from their neighbors to the west in Minnesota in knocking off Iowa last weekend because and by the way, in a ugly game that ended with some eyebrow-raising moments. No. It was much lower. It was
like this. You can't even see it on the screen.
Look, the reality is the West feels up for grabs right now. I don't know that I felt that way even remotely going into this week, or I should say going into last week. I thought Iowa was the clear-cut front runner, and Iowa stubbed their toe pretty unexpectedly, in my opinion anyways, to Minnesota. And so now you got a 5-2 Wisconsin team that, yes, they lost to Iowa. They've got to continue to win and maybe get a little bit of help. We'll see what happens with Minnesota and with Iowa the rest of the way. But they responded with a nice win over Illinois last week, 25-21. And Illinois is showing that, they're not the doormat of the Big Ten that they used to be. Wisconsin still has a chance to make it to Indianapolis. And, I think they realize like, hey, this is this is one of the two programs in the league that's the measuring stick. So let's see how close we are. That's how the Badgers are approaching this week, with the belief that they can go in and win this game. And, the reality is Ohio State's got to be on their P's and Q's this weekend, because Wisconsin's got enough talent to make this interesting.
Yeah, and it's been a weird year. Like, I remember talking early in the season, or even before the season, and frankly, Wisconsin was a favorite of mine. Just a team that I was kind of excited about. Didn't think that they would be, on Ohio State's level this early in Luke Fickell's tenure. I think down the road, I do think that Luke Fickell's a very good coach, and I think he can help turn this thing around. But frankly, just kind of shocked at how their season has gone. They haven't been able to really figure it out, and it's almost like they can't ditch the stench of the past. Like, they still have trouble scoring, and their offense is kind of stuck in the mud a little bit. They lose their quarterback a couple weeks ago against Iowa. So it's like they're just trying to get through it, and they just haven't looked the way that I thought they would with Luke Fickell's becoming the new head coach there. That said, Luke Fickell knows how to coach football, and he's an Ohio State guy, and he knows what it's going to take this week, and he's going to have his guys ready, and it means it's going to mean a lot to him, right? He's one of the all-time Ironmen in Ohio Sate football history, and been a coach as a Buckeye coach for so long. So his boys will be ready to play, and it's going to be a cool environment. It's going to be one that Ohio State's going to need to show up for sure.
I think it's really kind of interesting that when you're in it, you are in it. And when you're just removed enough from it, maybe some of the stuff that we feel like is super front and center isn't quite on everybody's minds the way you would think. And maybe social media can distort our opinions and our impressions of some of this stuff. I say that I was in the Browns locker room the last couple of days in Cleveland and talked to DeJuan Jones, Luke Whippler, Denzel Ward, and Ronnie Hickman. Obviously, guys that have all played for the Buckeyes. Denzel Ward certainly, a little bit longer ago, where those other three guys were on the team last year. And it's interesting how when you're covering Ohio State football and when you are on the pulse and in the building in the Woody with this program, it feels like the only thing that is going on with the Buckeyes right now is the attention from all of us with what's going on at Michigan, where Ohio State is trying really hard to just say, none of that matters, not going to think about it, not going to publicly say anything about it or worry about it. Ryan Day has been asked a couple different times his thoughts of what's gone on, doesn't want to even approach, the subject. And so there's this laser focus of let's just take care of our own business and see what happens. I talked to those other four guys, and DeJuan Jones had said that he thought, he acknowledged that last year Ohio State was aware of the fact that Michigan probably had their signals and that they were trying to work through some of that stuff. But at the same time, Denzel Ward literally said, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, hadn't heard anything. Ronnie Hickman was like, yeah, I think I read something about something, but what was it? Like, I saw something, they might've had like a picture of our signals on a sheet. So I guess I just wanted to say all of that because we are so enthralled with this big picture of what's going on with the Buckeyes right now. And it's almost hard to focus on a game because that is the talk of college football right now is Michigan's already guilty in the court of public opinion. But whether or not they're actually guilty and actually going to be punished for it, I guess we'll wait and see. And yet Ohio State has a job to do. They got to figure out a way to be laser focused for a Wisconsin team that, for nothing else, I think they're really physical. And the toughness with that mentality that obviously that Luke brings. I don't think they have the same level of talent the Buckeyes do. So, Ohio State better lean on its captains, on Tommy Eichenberg, Xavier Johnson, Cade Stover, to make sure that this team is primarily focused on forget what else is going on. If we don't win this weekend, none of our goals are going to matter anymore.
Exactly, and that's kind of the messaging inside the locker room. Like, in my opinion, with the way that things are now, and even when I played, it was you acknowledge social media and coaches were kind of under the understanding is that we saw everything. So you acknowledge it, but then it's guys, we know what's going on. it doesn't matter if we lose this weekend because we're going to go up to Michigan in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and it's not going to mean anything. Like it doesn't matter if they're got signs or don't got signs. Like our game's not going to have any meaning at all. So it's like, hey, we need to take care of business this weekend because, the message that's being preached is that, if you stub your toe, it does not matter. The storyline is just totally insignificant, and that's going to be preached throughout the locker room.
All right. I know you've done quite a bit of film watch on Wisconsin just to kind of get ready for the weekend. What do you like? What concerns you? What bothers you? Where can Ohio State attack them?
Yeah, so this team, it's going to be like if Ohio State gets out quickly, it's going to it gets out fast. It'll get ugly fast. And because, like I said earlier, this Wisconsin team is a little bit uncharacteristic in terms of what I expected them to be. They're still that old school kind of hard nosed smash mouth football. They're going to play really tough defense. And if you really watch, if people watching this, just tune into just YouTube their highlight package from last week against Illinois. What you'll see is they gave up some big plays in the run game, which Ohio State's going to try to take advantage of, because I think that they can dominate them in the box and be really physical and really run it on them. They also stub their toe a lot when they have the ball on offense with just bad turnovers. You had a turnover early where the quarterback fumbled on a run, and then the very next drive they get into scoring territory and they fumble their holder drops the kick snap. So it's like they did a little bit early on to just put themselves in a big hole. They end up coming back and winning, but they'll do some stuff. They'll give you the football. So for Ohio State, the way I kind of envision this is one of those games early on in the season. Think like Indiana, where Indiana tried to just take the air out of the football and keep Ohio State's offense on the field or off the field. So what does that mean for the Buckeyes? Well, that means for the Buckeyes, when you're on the field, you have to be efficient. You may only get 8-9 drives on Saturday. So when those drives do come, you have to execute, and those have to end in points, because this very well could, if you turn one over or you have to punt a couple times or go 3 and out, this could be one where it's like 10-10 at halftime, 7-10, and it's just kind of that weird feel. And the more Wisconsin hangs around at home, the more that they're going to believe. And once they start believing, the upset, starts kind of creeping into your mind. So for Ohio State, for me, it's get out early, as I've been saying that for the last couple of weeks, and they've started to do it. Go have a quick start, and then be really efficient on offense. Score every time you have the football. Like last week, every drive ending a kick, and you're hoping that it kicks through the upright. And then when you're on defense, they're going to give you the football. So when the opportunity arrives, take the chance, or and make the most of those opportunities to take the football. So I would say those are my 3 big keys. Things to watch for. They're going to be starting their backup quarterback, Braden Locke. Their main guy, Tanner Mordecai, potentially broke his hand against Iowa. It kind of was one of those where his pocket was closing in. He was thrown. He hit his hand on the defensive lineman's helmet. So he'll be out Saturday. But their stud receiver, Will Pauling, very good player. He's a very, very good player, and he'll make some catches on Saturday. So just 2 names to kind of keep your eye out for. And then when they hand the rock off, it's going to Braylon Allen. He's been a guy for the last couple of years for Wisconsin. That's a name you should recognize, but he'll wear number 0. He's a physical runner. He'll run right through you, but he's got enough juice to him where he can turn 10-yard gains into 30-yard gains. He's
Mr. Badger to me, right? I mean, I think about, what is Wisconsin football like? And I immediately am thinking about, okay, this is the Braylon Allen kind of football team. They are his personality, his physicality for sure. And, they're not as explosive, certainly without Mordecai, in my opinion, but plenty capable. And I also think that Ohio State's defense is the best defense they've seen this year. Frankly, I think Ohio State's defense is substantially better than Iowa. And I don't want to rag on Iowa's defense because Iowa's defense is good. But I think the Buckeye defense is a different level of good. Having watched them on film, Ohio State, there are times where Ohio State looks like they're going to bring 6, and you kind of have to figure out, like, as an offensive line, okay, what side are we zoning? What side are we man blocking? Like, how do we make this all work? And yet Jim Knowles has schemed things up in a way that a 6-man rush can all of a sudden be just as effective as a 4-man rush, where Ohio State's not selling out, truly selling out, bringing pressure, and yet the offensive line is crumbling like they are. I don't know if I've seen another Big Ten team for sure. Maybe Michigan, maybe. But I don't know that I've seen another Big Ten team that has created that kind of chaos this year. And Wisconsin's known for having some really good offensive linemen. So there's an element of like, okay, we're going to see if the Buckeyes are well tested against a line like this. But the ideas that you had against Penn State last week were really good. You're feeling good. It manifested itself well in the right way. So you sit there and go, okay, we're in a great spot. Let's see how this works.
And just keep it going. And one thing I would add to what you were saying about the defense, and the reason they're able to do that is because, and we've said it 100 times, they're so elite on the outside. Their corners are elite and their safeties are elite. So when those guys are elite athletes and they can cover the way they can, you can play games up front. You can take chances and take risks because on the back end you're locked up and you're good. So it'll be exciting to see how they attack Wisconsin. I think if it were me, I bet Jim Knowles calls a very aggressive game and really says, hey, if you're going to beat us, it isn't going to be Braylon Allen. It's going to be the passing game, and you're going to have a young quarterback lead a team for 60 minutes to try and beat us.
I expect Sonny Styles and Cody Simon to see a lot of time in addition to Tommy and Steele. I expect to see those guys very active in the run game for sure. Okay, prediction time. I usually put you on the spot first, so take a little heat off you. How's that sound?
There we go.
I'll go first this week. The over-under is 46, at least from what I saw, was 46, and the spread was 14.5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Ohio State's going to have a problem covering the spread this week. I'm feeling pretty good if I'm Ohio State going in this week. Not a knock against Wisconsin. I think the Buckeyes are feeding on the juice right now. I'm going to say 42-10.
42-10?
And I think it's 42-3, and Ohio State gives up a late score, which makes it look a little tighter. I
like that. I tend to agree with you in the fact that I think Ohio State covers. We were talking about it today. I think that it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to have a weird start. It's going to feel a little bit like Maryland. Some weird stuff's going to happen. Camp Randall's going to be rocking. They're going to be all wearing red. Some weird stuff's going to happen early. They'll get into halftime. It'll be pretty close. And then third and fourth quarter, Ohio State will be Ohio State. They'll pull away. I'm thinking 35-14 Buckeyes winners.
Okay, 35-14, 42-10. Those are our picks. And looking forward to following a big game. I will be covering remotely this week. I'm not unfortunately going to be in Madison, but we've still got plenty of coverage coming up here. We'll do our normal post-game show. We've got plenty of stuff coming up for you over on BuckeyesNow.com as well to get you ready for this week's primetime matchup at Camp Randall. So we'll see you in Madison. For Anthony Meglin, I'm Brendan Gulick. Thanks for hanging out. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new. We would certainly appreciate that so we can continue to bring you content just like this each and every week. And look forward to the Buckeyes getting back to it on Saturday evening. See you soon, Buckeyes and Badgers coming up Saturday night.